Hello, everybody.
There we go.
Hey.
We're live.
Yes. It looks like
Tuesday
notifications
evening.
are going out slow, though, so we may want to drag our feet a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I just tweeted it again and retweeted it, so give it a few minutes.
Yeah, even like, the Facebook isn't gone through yet. Nothing. Jesus, seriously? Why is this thing so slow? Anyway, welcome, Yeti. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited to talk to you. Since our
it's been a busy couple of months.
Yep. Maybe we'll get a couple of beans spilled. I don't know. Accidents happen sometimes.
Yeah, it did happen last time. That's for sure. Yeah. Let's see who we got here. Wow, I can't say that. I'm sorry. That just is not coming out no matter what. Rurales. There you go. Appreciate you. Welcome. Wow, I'm look at this. Bam, bam.
Sure.
You guys need to do this because obviously
one of the DYNEX staff members.
Oh man, Sadie is in the house.
Sadie,
appreciate you. Budweiser. I love it. I love that name. Love that name. Chuck Danger. Appreciate it. All right, we got people in. Well, I don't know, Yeti. Where do you want to start off? You and then we'll grill you later.
I mean, where do you? I mean, we're talking just a lot live. You really want to get into what I was doing in Italy?
I saw some pictures. They're very interesting.
It was
a nicer car than mine. Just so what was that about? What happened in Italy?
So we were invited to go down to Mugello. So that's top end of Italy and near Florence.
Okay.
To showcase a quantum race simulator. Original plan was to only show a test track. Then they kind of maybe challenged us to showcase something more, so that became a simulator on Mugello track. And then after that they were like, well, it would be really good if we could show like actual race data from the ECU, and can we get the race sim to run around the track using actual race data, gears selection, braking zones, turn in, turn out, and then obviously how hard to push the accelerator pedal, how hard to push the brake pedal, that kind of thing. So ultimately the idea was to showcase that a quantum setup could in fact run that level of data and process it quick enough that it could be actually usable. The good news is that all went well, like really well.
Great.
That's awesome.
So we've effectively signed up to provide quantum services to start with, it's one team in the European Le Mans series, but with the hope that it will be opened up for everyone in the series, because it's a single formula. So if one gets a competitive edge, it won't be long before they're all using it, right? That's generally how it works.
Yes, it does.
That is true.
So, and we're looking forward to that, because that's going to open up new avenues we didn't even think possible at the time. So, I mean, it's proving that like data itself, like when it comes down to it, that DYNEX can handle that kind of amount of data in a very short period of time.
Yeah, and you had talked about utilization of your network and quantum computing, and you hadn't even touched the maximum threshold of what that is.
Not even
during close. I was about to ask you, during your testing right now, has that even been touched? Or
no, not even close. It's just not even close. Right. I think it was like
been no experiments.
1.6 or 1.7% total usage at the time.
Wow.
So yeah, it wasn't a huge amount, which is good. Wow. Which is very good. So. And like I say, the testing went really, really well.
That's excellent. So have you increased your inventory of GPUs and users jumping onto them?
So obviously we've seen a bit with the market being the way it is at the moment. We've seen a little downturn on the number of GPUs we've got on the network.
Yeah,
it wasn't to be unexpected when miners obviously work within profit margins. If suddenly the crypto prices all take a tumble, then they turn off, which is fine. We're set up in such a way that we can take that. That's no problem. I think we're hovering around 60 to 70,000 GPUs at the moment. Although that can bounce around if we've suddenly are, really profitable again, then suddenly they're all turned back on. So
right.
But we've got some announcements on the 14th coming that will, shall we say, cover ourselves for that eventuality as well. So if there's going to be some new contingency plans around, what if suddenly we were at like 80% and we had a mass disconnect for whatever reason, might have a big miner who's doing some maintenance. What happens? Because that then pushes us over our 95% threshold.
Right.
We then start to get a bit panicky because we'll be at max capacity. We're actually signing some deals to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Awesome.
So those will all be announced on the 14th. So those things are going to be part of our economic rework of DYNEX that's coming for the 14th.
Okay. I had a question to kind of. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how are those announcements planning on being made? Are you doing it on X?
We'll be doing a full-blown YouTube presentation,
Nice.
and then there is also a 2-hour AMA right after in our Discord. We're going to invite everyone to come and have a chat, good, bad, indifferent. We're gonna sit down with all of our community and answer all their questions. So I've asked for other staff members to also drop in. So in that 2-hour window, we're going to have Sumi drop in. We're going to have the devs drop in, our marketing team, our sales team. They'll all be in and out as part of that AMA. So hopefully it'll allow the community a chance to ask some of those questions that they've been waiting for and to get those answers.
Sounds like it's going to be huge. Sorry, Jar, I didn't mean to cut you off, but jump right in.
I don't even know if I should be touching on this, but you had briefly mentioned educational institutions as a possible partnership. I just wanted to see if that had progressed at all.
Yeah.
Is that
actually it's progressed a little bit further than we maybe expected it to have already.
Yeah.
There's some big parts to the announcement that will cover that. But yes, the contracts with the academia is now pretty much set. It really is going to be a new kind of opportunity for us as well as part of academia. It's not every day that blockchain or any kind of blockchain service gets that kind of overview in academia at the moment. We're just starting to see some of the very first sort of crypto orientated courses start popping up.
Yeah.
Now we want to see if, we can take that one step further and not only do the blockchain side, but also, cover off our quantum side. So it's something that we're very much looking forward to. 14th we'll go over even more of that, what that means going forward, what that means for obviously DYNEX as a whole, because academia doesn't technically cover the crypto side, but indirectly it will do, because it's going to bring usage on the network, obviously, right? Where students are effectively learning how to do DYNEX on chain, and therefore the usage is going to jump considerably. So we're doing some test runs now. We're making sure, anything that we're going to teach going forward is correct. It's easy enough to understand and everything like that. So there's a little bit of work still to be done with that. There's some definite, having to do a lot of paperwork. I don't think I've ever done so much writing in all my life. But it'll be well worth it. It's definitely going to be well worth it.
Yeah. And I'm just guessing boundaries are going to get crossed. Just by the way the structure is.
Blend the lines between, the blockchain and the quantum option and what universities and colleges and schooling could potentially offer.
Just getting accessibility to quantum in that level of education is just such a huge thing because it's so expensive. Just to rent.
Absolutely. I mean,
get access to
quantum is crazy. Like, I was recently doing some benchmarking for DYNEX on an actual physical quantum. The bill was extreme.
Yeah.
But
especially when there's only a few players in the market, they can basically charge what they want, right? So that's the other part.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Probably the only one really close to us that's actually doing pretty well for themselves is D-Wave right now.
Yep.
Because they do simulated annealing much like we do. We actually directly interoperable with D-Wave. So what we've learned from doing tests with D-Wave is only to a certain degree, right? Then you need to take it to full-blown physical quantum, and even that's not really relatable, right? Because they're still locked at just over 1,000 qubits.
Okay.
And that's a huge problem, right? We'll actually be covering off this exact topic on the 14th about how quantum going mainstream is such a hard sell at the moment for a lot of companies, right? Due to costs, overhead, training, not just training for using it, but actually training for developing on it as well. It's a lot. Right. And that's why ultimately we positioned ourselves to be that option of breaking that barrier.
Yeah. And you also had talked about last time about you had talked about having resources available for people that are looking at developing into quantum.
And we're in the process of building out our documentation even further. That's something that's on the cards right now.
Yeah.
That will go over in depth, and we'll learn some of this with the academia stuff, right? Because we're gonna learn what people's misconceptions around quantum are going to be. We're going to learn what they want to try and bend quantum to do, because we've found that certain things aren't good for quantum, but you can still potentially bend it to get it working on quantum, right? So computational fluid dynamics was that prime example, right? It wasn't really designed for quantum. We bent it a little bit to make it work, right? We had to build a translation layer to do that CFD data in such a way that it could be understood. So I think it's going to be the same again. We'll find some hurdles and some sticking points, but ultimately that's part of the learning process, right?
I was just gonna say that's how you learn, right?
Yeah. Oh, look, all of my staff have turned up. They're all turning around saying, if the boss is watching right now, I'm in trouble. Yeah, I probably am.
How can you be in trouble? You haven't told us anything.
You haven't leaked it.
They already know what's going to happen. I'm going to start getting talking, and before I know it, I'll be giving away valuable information for the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, like if you have drinks handy.
Yeah.
It's not Krypton rocks, but
yes, that's true.
That's no, funny. But I mean, academia is massive for us. Breaking into that area is huge.
It sounds enormous, and like globally, it just sounds like just that one section alone just seems to be like
you're not wrong. Like academia is something that I don't think many companies, let alone anyone in blockchain, has really ever tried to break into like that. So it'd be really interesting to see where we can take that. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of what's happened in the last couple of months. Like, there's been a lot ongoing. Obviously, we've got new partnerships. We'll be announcing who those are on the 14th. But there are a couple of new options that we've got coming. Obviously, Biconomy announced a couple of weeks ago that a couple of weeks ago now that they will be listing DYNEX. We actually are hoping that they might be able to deliver that just in time for the 14th.
Oh, perfect.
Which would be nice timing. We have been nudging them, I say politely. I think that's probably an opportune word for anyone who's ever dealt with an exchange. It's not a case of having to
work at their own
get it done. It's a case of having to hit them with a sledgehammer. They're hard work. As Mr. Financial Failure over there knows, exchanges and dealing with people in exchanges is hard work.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what to say on that because I tried. I'll just say that much, Yeti, but
I mean,
tend
you've
to work
had
out, I
experience,
guess.
right? You know just some of the hurdles you have to jump and
Yeah.
navigate around, right? So
And the
obviously,
cost.
the fact that
Cost alone
Biconomy is already announced and they're going to be hopefully done sooner or rather than later. The good news about Biconomy is they're actually a full regulated US on ramp and off ramp. So
That's good.
for the first time in a long time, we will actually be able to open up for US customers to just go and buy and sell their DYNEX without a problem and having to jump through VPNs and bounce around half the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm assuming just the United States, that's just one huge portion that you're missing right now.
Yeah, I mean, UK is another one, and Canada. They're all three of those are accepted with Biconomy, which is obviously a huge thing for us. I mean, I hate having to jump around to try and buy crypto. I just want to go on an exchange where I need to go and buy it. Like, that's the whole idea and concept around exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, with how legislation and regulation is going, it's making it very difficult for certain exchanges to be easily accessible now. So,
yep, we're having the same problem here in Canada.
You know, you mentioned regulation.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit, like you guys' thought process as you move forward with regard to regulation?
I mean, I can definitely actually, given that for the last 3 weeks, all I've been doing is the paperwork for compliance documents. So, you know, like we're currently in the process of going for certain accreditations. Anyone who's ever done business in that kind of industry would kind of understand what accreditations we're probably already going for. But we're also going one step further, right? We've got to make sure that we're compliant with MiCA in Europe. That's a big thing, right? So that's how the management of digital assets in Europe. I suspect that down the road, the US will probably have something similar to MiCA. It's only probably a matter of time. The UK's already pretty much adopted most of MiCA already. So it's compliance is a pain, but it has to be done, right? Also, I don't know if you know this, but in the EU, anyone processing or computing over 600 euros worth of computation has to also be validated as well under KYC. So there's that as well, right? That's another thing that we've got to figure out and compliance wise, right? We've got our KYC supplier. We're already doing that now. But, you know, that was something else that most people didn't realize we had to do. Then you've got HIPAA for any medical data in the States. Then you've got the one over in California as well. They've got their own equivalent digital privacy policy. You've got GDPR as well in Europe. I mean, like, honestly, the amount of paperwork that we're having to get ready for all of this is quite extreme, but it's part of the process, right? We work out what we're missing. We go build those documents that are missing. We just finished up SIG as well, so that goes a big long way for accreditations. Yeah, the accreditations is probably the biggest and the most complex thing I've had to deal with in the last 6 months, to be fair. There's a lot. You know, how do you do a disaster recovery plan for a blockchain?
Oh, God. Is that even possible? Like, it's so complex.
We've figured out a way to get creative with it, but yes, it's just about possible.
Okay. To
have a disaster recovery on a blockchain. It's not easy because obviously if the chain moves on, we have to do something about that, right? How do we store a backup of all the immutable data? So we do take a regular backup of our blockchain data from one of our nodes just in case. And ultimately we have a procedure now, and we've tested that procedure of how fast we can have that resynced back to the network on our master nodes that we've got. We've expanded our master nodes as well to be centralized and decentralized now. That's a big thank you to our partners Okta. So they're going to be hosting a couple of our big seed nodes that will benefit us immensely. But ultimately, we just have to take backups and store those backups safe and securely.
Who did you say your partner was?
Octaspace.
Oh,
Octa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the other Octa.
No, Octaspace.
Okay, Octaspace, right.
With this regulation, I mean, does it seem like it's kind of forcing you to be more centralized?
I wouldn't say that it is considered like pushing us into a corner. It's just that it's forcing us to have to think a little bit outside the box about how we word things, how we describe things, right? Like we have to describe a little bit more in detail what our network is and how our network works for that to be compliant enough. So it does take a little bit of creative thinking, but we're working on that. We have some great lawyers as well, to be fair. So yeah, I had a 2.5 hour long lawyer meeting this morning. That was a very dry meeting.
Yeah.
And a very expensive one at that.
I was about to say they're yeah.
It's just I don't look at the bill. I get them to send that to the finance department.
You don't want
That's
to know.
fine with me. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So one of the things that we talked about last time, and I thought was really interesting, is that you were working on quantum LLMs, and it was being developed at the time. Just curious to know on the progress of that, and if there's anything like that going to be introduced in the near future, or is that still a ways out?
I would say it's more like it'll be introduced probably by the end of this month.
Soon. Okay.
It's in the final testing phase now.
Wow.
We're going to release it in stages because each stage needs testing and thoroughly like actual Q&A. Like we got to actually do some testing on this in real world scenarios with real use case, with people hammering the hell out of it. So the first one will be a code generator. If all goes to plan, within a month or two, we'll have our proper full GPT up and running. Another couple of months after that, we'll have our generative art part probably working.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to roll this out quite fairly quickly. But each step of the way, we have to verify our data. What our biggest concern is obviously, what we would call hallucinations on GPT style systems, right? Where you run out of number of tokens or the short-term memory, and then it can't remember anymore. So it loses what it's had to do and starts again, right? That's why most people will hit that point. They'll save their document or whatever they're working on, open up another chat GPT, paste it in there and carry on from that part, right? Ours is set up in a way to handle almost 5 times the number of tokens.
Okay.
Because of the quantum variance, right? We're able to scale that much bigger. So the tokens will be, like say, roughly about 5 times bigger. And that's going to be huge, right? Like the biggest problem with ChatGPT is you can't really have a long conversation with it because ultimately it's going to forget. So
yeah, I've had that issue a few times, just running through question after question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then obviously you know that as soon as we start saying, oh well, it's got 5 times more short-term memory, you can do reinforcement learning or transfer learning, which is the same mechanism that a short-term memory goes over to a long-term memory. I mean, the logical step is next to look at something a little bit more than just basic AI. What more can we push through it? And that's going to be a topic that we're going to cover on the 14th about where we're going to take that. I hate using the term AI because it's too general.
Yeah.
But taking that AI process and turning it really up to like where could we potentially push it towards an AGI kind of scenario where eventually it gets to enough mass and computation that it could actually start doing that kind of AGI type talking, where you could, you know, be having a conversation like we are now and it actually be able to do it.
I don't know if
how about this? I'll make a promise to you guys now. The moment we crack AGI, we'll bring it on. We'll bring it on the channel for you. How's that?
I'd love that.
That's
you can actually have a
the crap out
conversation
of me.
with it.
There you go. Right.
AI is already scary enough, and I like that you're looking at different ways to differentiate DYNEX from the competition. There's a lot of
AI doesn't scare me nearly as much as what we announced a few months ago, where we partnered with a robotics company.
Okay.
That scares me a lot more. That scares me a lot more.
Yeah, the two together.
A quantum-powered robot that can think for itself. I'm getting Terminator vibes.
Yeah, Terminator vibes, exactly.
Yeah. So obviously that's something that we've got to obviously consider as well, right? That's why we have our ethics committee, to make sure that companies aren't abusing the use of the service or people. Right. Last thing we want is people going, you know, breaking encryptions and stuff like that for fun.
I was actually gonna bring that up because you were talking about breaking SHA-256 before, and you had I think they were called fingerprints or signatures that you had to detect it, and you could detect it in less than a second. But I was wondering, how frequently are you seeing attempts like that? And
we maybe see 1 or 2 flags a week for something. So now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, right? It just means that it's triggered one of our verification phases, where we go, hang on a minute, that's got very similar attributes to something else we've seen. We better make sure that it's okay, and we go and speak to the client. Right now, it might be that, you know, one of the examples I can give you is that, you know, we had somebody doing some research on an encryption methodology that they wanted to build themselves, their own encryption, but it triggered the same process failure as somebody trying to break encryption, right? Because ultimately the process is still the same. Right. So of course, when we figured out that they were building an encryption methodology, that was fine. So what we did was we actually opened up our 2 digital fingerprints. We found where the difference was, and we modified the code so it will allow theirs always through.
Right. Refine.
But there's the odd time where things get completely barred. We've seen somebody have a go at. We saw one flag for an RSA attempt a couple of months ago. But ultimately, that's what the security system's there for, right? To make sure that stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I can just see that just as you grow, that's just going to become a bigger issue, right?
Because, it's the same as the fingerprint technology is being rolled into the LLM as well. So the idea is that if you're running a GPT and you ask it to give you, I don't know, the chemical makeup for a nuclear bomb, it's not going to give it to you, right? Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of thing you don't want it to be handing to people, or like, you know, please supply me a 3D print for a gun that can't be traced. That would be devastating, right? There's so many dangers to opening that just up without at least some basic rules around it, right?
Because there's also so many different variables of requests that are going to be made. You can't just presume so many of them, right? There's going to be a threshold.
I suspect that when we open up DYNEX LLM to the world to be used, I suspect that the trigger amount will be going up quite drastically for the first few weeks.
You just have flags going off all the time.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that's what's going to happen, right? Because we're going to get a whole new bunch of job types that have never been run on there before. And it's going to be looking for similarities, and if it finds a similarity, then it's going to hold that for a check. But I'd rather it hold it for a check and us make sure than, you know, somebody have their bank account hacked, or you know, God forbid, anything worse than that. That would be pretty bad.
Do you have like a special group or a set of staff that are continuously monitoring?
It's actually part of one of our compliance documents. Is for who manages those kind of problems, right? So ultimately, it goes off to the ethics committee, but we have to have a rapid response team that deals with it. The rapid response team is a mix of myself, Ivan, who's our head of development, And then 2 of our founders are also part of that rapid response team, and 2 more other developers as well. So between us, we cover pretty much every time zone. So ideally, there should always be 1 person available at any one time.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
because that can only get more difficult as you open this up to everybody else on the internet. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big scary bit, right? We open this up to the world, which we've got to do, because otherwise,
Right.
you know, what's the point in putting in this much effort, right?
When we saw what happened to ChatGPT, it had to get shut down numerous times just to get everything back in order, right? So
correct. So we don't want it to the point where we get, you know, regulators on our doorstep. I said it to Financial Failure when I saw him in Miami. You know, last thing we want is 3-letter agency people turning up on doorsteps. Right.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not a good look.
No.
So, but I mean, this is just part of the business side, right? Like, a lot of people see the crypto side, but they don't quite see just how much work goes in on the business side. It's just as much work, if not more, on the business side, because the compliance factor. No government at the moment has rules around how a business with a blockchain would work. They have rules around crypto companies, but they've never come across many companies that then go and build a blockchain for themselves and build a blockchain for a specific purpose like that.
Yeah, and the policies from country to country are always different. There's not like a universal set of policies that you have to comply with. It's just every single region. Like you mentioned, the US has one, and then California has their own, and they're within the US. So,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I know that you guys had some questions around, you know, obviously Italy. Was there any other questions that you guys had for around what we talked about last time? Because I know that you said that there was a few extra questions that you wanted to.
Yeah, I think John rapid fired them at you there for a second.
Yeah, I had most of them. You had talked about the Enigma fund. There was a recent strategic partnership that you had started up with, and it was supposed to open up some doors. I'm just curious if any new partnerships or relationships were developed out of that, or is that an October 14th thing, and I shouldn't be talking about it at all?
I'm so going to get in trouble.
Okay, so I'll just leave it.
No. We don't want to get you in trouble.
So Enigma was just part of the overall process, right? So there is one more that will be announced that has partnered with us, that's going to facilitate some pretty heavy doors being opened, some doors that we've been struggling to open. We're going to be very open and honest about that. You know, we've talked about a number of times about how some doors are literally, you can't open them unless you know somebody in that business lineup, right?
Yes.
And therefore we need those people on board with us to help open those doors. Enigma Fund opened up a whole bunch of doors that we have now been, you know, taking full use of. They're a great team over there, by the way, fantastic team. And then this new other one that were announced on the 14th has been opening doors on the other side of that equation, right? So I'm pretty sure people are going to be able to easily read between the lines on this, but yeah, they're opening doors more on the crypto side than the business side. Enigma was more for business side and opening business avenues. This one is more for opening doors for the crypto side. So, and they're all on board. When I say they're all on board, like their entire staff are all on board. I've spoke to literally 3/4 of their entire staff now.
Okay.
So that's everyone on board with them. So, you know, from marketing to fund management to, you know, being able to attack which companies we want to attack and get to the right people, right? Me and FF over there, we talked about this a number of times, right? Just opening certain doors for any sort of smaller crypto projects, right, is really difficult.
Yeah.
And then when there's a proper business beside that, it gets a little convoluted and a little difficult. But we're slowly getting there. And that's what this economic remodel on the 14th is all about, right? Explaining where some of the sticking points have been, what we're doing to get around those problems and get past those problems permanently. And ultimately who is coming on board as a partnership or advisors to actually help us with those problems as well. So it's a big bit of news, and it should please a lot of people to see that we're realizing, you know, we've got to deal with this sooner rather than later.
You got a question in the house here. Have you solved the coherence problem?
Ooh.
I'm not even sure what problem that is. I don't know what coherence is.
So if I'm getting what I think I'm hearing, right? So we're probably talking about things like ion drift. We're talking about things like quantum error correcting, and so forth, right? So with current quantum machines, they are kind of problematic to noise, to temperature fluctuations, you name it, right? Generates error issues all over the place. So it's why you can't run a physical quantum for, you know, stupidly long, you know, because it's just going to boil off all of your, you know, either liquid nitrogen or liquid helium. Right?
Okay.
Most of the two big ones that cool down most options. For what we do, and I'm going to get really close to what we're going to announce on the 14th here, so I'm going to have to be choice with my words. But we have on our network a certain way of being able to do error correcting, right? Because obviously we need to do our own version of error correcting because of the network disconnects, right? So miner is on our network. They disconnect halfway through a computational job. It's no different than quantum error correcting, right? It's our own spin on it. Okay. Because we use a neuromorphic approach, quantum errors are actually lower than physics-based quantum. So obviously there's a couple of different methods around quantum. We took a biology-inspired approach. Physical quantum is based on physics. So, you know, and that's things like spin states for an atom and stuff like that. We'll end up getting a really nerdy if I get down that road too much. End up being here for next 3 hours talking about it. But we've already worked out a way that we can mitigate a lot of the like the errors that come as part of quantum. Mainly because we don't have to super chill it. It's not temperature reliant, like standard quantum. And then there's a few new things we'll announce on the 14th that come around that as well, because we've got some new news around quantum error correcting. Some enhancements we've found that we can run on our network. Now, we don't know if that could be translated over to physical quantum, but we'd love to test that on a proper quantum and actually test that. So that's something that we've been talking with the dev team over in Bulgaria about basically doing some test runs on a physical quantum in relation to quantum error correcting. So, and if these changes do work, then in theory we could release those to the world open source and allow normal quantum machines to perhaps adopt some of those changes into their own systems.
Oh.
How much they can adopt would be down to the architecture way that they've set up their system. But it would be interesting to see if we can run our error correcting on their hardware, because then it'll give us the true readout of just how much of an uplift on errors that it will be. like how better it will be without those errors. So, but I just don't know. It's such an unknown, right? We don't actually have a physical quantum machine at the office to be able to go and test this theory on, right? So we have to wait for a slot to become available on IBM's physical quantum. Unfortunately, that's booked up for the next 4 months.
Okay, we got a waiting list there.
So yeah, we can't get on it at all. We've been on the waiting list for nearly 3 weeks now.
Wow.
So that's another thing that is the reason why the big uptake is not happening with quantum, because the time for you to wait before you've already got access to it, like that's so long in a development phase to wait 3 to 4 months to get access to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's why a lot of companies won't switch over to quantum, because the resources aren't available to them at a moment's notice. That's one of the biggest upselling points to DYNEX.
I was going to say this, DYNEX solves that problem.
It's available all the time.
Right.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons why the European Le Mans series was so keen on it, because of the always available option.
Now, I asked a ton of questions. FFs, I'm not sure if you had some lined up there.
Well, I mean, you're calling me out. What about CCM?
No, I said both. Either.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't think I really have too many questions per se. I was over here looking for actually a link to Bitcoin puzzles, because I know that's something that I brought up before. It's not really cracking SHA-256. It's more or less like brute force guessing a private key. And I know last time I had brought it up in sort of a malicious manner, but I think I've corrected myself now. And I'm wondering, could I use DYNEX to solve puzzles like that?
It's a good question.
Puzzles.
It's actually a question I've been asked before as well. I think that the problem is that we open the door for one type of scenario. We technically open the door for all types of scenarios, and that's the really dangerous thing, right? I mean, I know everyone wants me to just showcase me breaking SHA-256, right? I know for a fact that is ultimately what everyone wants to do. But I mean, had we been doing this, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe I wouldn't be so worried about doing it, right? But
yeah, things have changed.
As you get older and a little bit wiser, you get a little bit smarter around doing dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's also implications there, right? We go showcase that we break to SHA-256, great. We've just basically upset every single crypto miner. We've upset governments. We've upset businesses. I mean, that's not a good idea in my view, but I do agree, right? Puzzles are not technically wrong, right? The Bitcoin puzzles were set up as actually a way to test the strength of Bitcoin wallets, right? That's why each puzzle was progressively more harder, right? It goes up by 1 bit in encryption layer, which is actually by a factor of itself, bear in mind, right? Just 1 bit more information is twice the size. But they were originally set up for penetration testing, right? To test the waters on how secure it needs to be. And obviously, you know, people have shown that up till, I believe it's puzzle 66 they're up to, I believe, right? The second puzzle 66.
Yep.
Up until that point, they were getting broke quite frequently. And then they hit puzzle 66, which I think is 166-bit encryption, which is not even as high as some of the, you know, encryption layers that you would expect people already done. But it's not just SHA-256. To break a wallet is not just the SHA-256 element, is it? It's also the elliptical curve. And that is where it gets really, really complicated, because that elliptical curve has billions, if not trillions, of combinations. So, you know, you would need something pretty powerful to go through the elliptical curve, something like a quantum machine, right?
Right. That's what I'm asking.
And I mean, people want me to release the white paper, right? I mean, I could.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to yet about doing a white paper on just how ill-equipped SHA-256 is for quantum. I had a good chat with quantum resistant ledger, another project, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy, did I put the fear of God into those guys when I had a chat with those guys, because we're on an X space. They'd never met me before, and then I freaked them out saying we do quantum.
Yeah.
And said, well, you know, every single blockchain that says they're quantum resistant, 100% has never tested it.
Right. Right.
Because nobody is going to spend that kind of money testing a theory like that.
Right.
Like, it's going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars to test. So I put it to quantum resistive ledger about it. I was like, well, you say you're quantum resistant, but actually, are you? And would you like me to check?
Yeah.
I said, would you like me to check to put the fear of God into them?
Yeah.
You know, but realistically, you know, our ability to do what we can is not to be malicious, right? Ultimately, quantum is a responsibility, right? I'll pull the line from Spider-Man, right? With great, you know, power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, 100%.
And it is very true, right?
Mhm.
We do have a certain level of responsibility to be protective of what's already existing infrastructure out there. If we gave everyone the ability to crack banks tomorrow, then that would be very bad. That would be very bad. And that's not what we're ultimately wanting. So that's why the ethics committee exists. It's why we've got, you know, specialized security running on the network. I know people hate us for that because they say, oh, well, in a decentralized environment, you shouldn't have any restrictions. But those people don't quite understand just how dangerous quantum could be in the wrong hands.
Yeah. Yeah. In this case, it's required, right?
Yeah. I just spotted a question. Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. There's somebody in our Discord literally talking about this yesterday. So is DYNEX any closer to going full PoUW without relying on the PoW component? So basically, even in pure PoUW, or what we're dubbing absolute entanglement, right? There still will be a PoW element to it, right? Just the difference is, rather than you doing the block hash verification direct, it will be done inside of the PoUW. So right now we have like a stand-in job, right? It's a really complex job that has a really high bounty on it. So if you manage to hit the nail on the head on that, you get 100,000 DYNEX for a reward. That's a lot of money.
Wow.
But that's a client that's put that up, not us. That's an actual client that's put that up. However, we think that once that's finished and we've finally nailed that one and somebody wins the reward for that, the standing job will become PoW. Right. So when you're not doing an actual PoUW job, you're effectively be on the quantum side doing the PoW block verification. So yes, we're still working on that. We're still ironing out some problems with it. I believe it's testnet 3 now. I believe we're up to. We'll probably open it up on probably testnet 6 to a few select people, and then testnet 7 will probably be where we open it up for everyone. So we're still a bit away from that yet. There are obviously a lot of checks that need to be done before we do this, because this will be the very first of its kind when we do it. Being first has its benefits, but it also has plenty of disadvantages to being first, right? There's no guides, there's no one to go and seek help from. Like, there's no one. So we've got to do this every step of the way, and we've got to do it right and methodically, because this is a lot of money we're talking about, right? If we stop all of everyone's funds to go disappearing off because we've screwed it up, that's not what we want. It's got to be done seamless. It's got to be done sensibly, because it's going to require a hard fork as well, because effectively we're taking away the existing PoW mechanism and replacing it with a new one. So that will require a hard fork. That's got to be tested. You know, the hard fork transition from existing DYNEX solve to full PoUW DYNEX solve. That's all got to be tested. Then we've got to debate on when the block height is that we're going to do the fork on. How much time do we need between, you know, announcing that we're going to do it and doing the actual fork over to the new solve, to the new DYNEX solve. So there's a lot. And then there was a second part to that. Would it affect the hashing performance of GPUs? No. Actually, it will do wonders for your cards, because you're going to be dropping about 25% of the electric off of it, ish. Is what we've already seen. Older cards get the really big benefit because the power consumption drops off massively. I haven't seen an RX 570 8 gig run at, you know, 65 watts at the wall for a long while.
What's the minimum for GPUs that you can support?
So minimum is about 40 watts on an A2000, ranging all the way up to around 185 on a 3090. So yeah, I haven't actually tested any of the 40 series. I didn't bother buying any, unfortunately. I might have to though now, given that, you know, we're going to have to do some proper heavy benchmarking, and that's going to be something that is going to be needed.
Your Explorer also shows the amount of GPUs and the different GPUs that were available, right? So you can kind of cross.
Rude puts is saying an RX 470. Haven't tested one, but we do know that our platform will support everything from a 4 gig card onwards. So it's still available to people, even if they don't have huge amounts of money available to them and they still want to get in on that. That's the whole idea, right? That's the whole idea of making sure that we weren't using like a DAG size similar to Ethereum, where, you know, you effectively get rid of the old cards as they get older. They can still be useful. Even in some small part, right? Which then means the barrier to entry from the crypto side is also lower. You know, we're not only lowering the barrier for the quantum side for the clients, but it's also the barrier for obviously everything else. So
yeah, you open up the door to a wider audience for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of other things as well. Actually, I completely forgot about it. We announced that we're going to be sponsoring an event in March. If any of you guys are over in Europe, please feel free to let me know in around March, or if you're free to come over to Europe in March. We're going to be doing a rather big event. Not only am I speaking at the event, our co-founder Daniela is also going to be speaking up on stage.
Is this in the
we're
UK?
actually sponsoring the event. No, it's Web3 Global in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. So that's something new, right? That's something that's coming as part. Well, I mean, we've already announced that we're doing Web3 Global, so but that's part of that whole economic remodel around what we're doing, right? That doesn't just mean from a business aspect. Yeah, it's in Amsterdam, Rude. It's right next to Ajax Football Club, if anyone knows what that is. Or soccer for you Americans over there. It's football.
Football, it is. Yeah.
But no, the plan is, if all goes to plan, and the robot is delivered on time. Now, obviously, that's dependent on the manufacturer themselves, but we may have it at the event.
Wow.
We may have it at the event.
That would be huge.
That would be nice.
Yeah. And then bring it up on stage when I'm talking. Well, that's the general idea.
Interact with it.
We might just sit down for a conversation.
I'll watch remotely just in case.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting conversation. But yeah, I mean, so for us, like, me and FF met over in Miami. Obviously, we've recently done a couple of other events as well in New York. Danny flew over there 2 days before I went to Italy, and then she flew directly from New York to Italy to do the presentation with me and European Le Mans. Wow. So she put in some hours that week, I tell you.
Yeah. The promoting cycle is huge, right? It's just constantly on the road. Yeah, your air miles must be through the roof. So
they're gonna get there. They got me going to oh god, I'm gonna get in trouble again. Dubai at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Dubai at the end of the month. Japan the month after that. I get Christmas off, and then I believe I've got a couple of trips to Austria booked, Amsterdam, and another trip to Dubai.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think isn't Mining Disrupt March next year?
Yeah, I think so.
So
that's Florida. Where's Mining Drops in Florida?
I hope so, because I do not want to do America in the cold again. Last year, the beginning of this year was brutal. I was in New York City in January when it was like -7 Celsius. It was freezing cold. I don't want to be doing that again.
All right.
We got another question.
Yeah, I was just about to bring it up.
Right. It's a good question. It's actually a very good question. Again, some other people have been asking the exact same questions recently. So will there be any retail customer dApps apart from DYNEX GPT that will be published, and would they run on DYNEX blockchain or layer 2? Right. So there's two parts to that question. First is, will there be more dApps than just DYNEX GPT? Yes. I'm already developing one. So for those who don't know, I run Yeti Audits. It's a blockchain and software auditing tool that is actually going to be completely powered by DYNEX going forward for scanning. Obviously, we've got DYNEX GPT, but there is a couple of other ones that clients are working on right now. One of them is a trading optimization platform. So you'll be able to fit in all your stocks and shares and have it give you portfolio optimization.
Wow. That'd be useful.
And then the second part of that, will they run on blockchain or layer 2? So it'll be directly on the native blockchain. And the reason is that we don't currently support layer 2. We have no real need for layer 2 on DYNEX, because the whole concept of our dApps will be that's what our partnership with Octaspace is going to help with. They're going to provide decentralized infrastructure for those dApps to run
on. The portfolio manager that you're talking about, is that also trading for you as well, or is that
it could. The demonstration that I've got that's possibly able to be shown off very soon is more on taking data and optimizing a buy and sell markers.
Okay.
Right. But could it trade for you if you coded it? Absolutely.
Wow.
100% it could.
That opens up a whole other door.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that, for the first person who gives it a try to actually trying to write a full trade solution that's powered by quantum, it's going to destroy everyone running bots out there. Absolutely destroy them.
Yeah.
Which would be quite fun to see, right? Watching a quantum bot absolutely destroy all these traders that have spent hours setting up their own bots. This thing's going to just absolutely annihilate them. But the test beds of the stocks and share portfolio optimization stuff shows real promise. Like, we don't want to develop it out to a full-blown platform. That's not our intention. It's to just showcase like what it could do if you spent the time to develop one. Because ultimately DYNEX is just a toolbox, right? We're not in the business of building applications to a certain degree. DYNEX GPT is probably the one alternative to the rules, shall we call it? Like that's you know, that's because
that's kind of like a promotional tool as well.
Well, it's also to showcase how flexible the LLM models are, right? We're actually building a translation layer that should allow you to take any existing model and just train it on DYNEX. That opens up everything: generative art, generative music, ChatGPT style bots, and everything. So it's really gonna be a busy next 6 months, I would say, for us. Or at least it's going to be busy for me, because I'm going to be doing a lot of flying and a lot of conversations with people and a lot of actual, like, up on stage talking about DYNEX. It's one of the parts of the economic rework, is that us being at speaking events and being up on stage talking about DYNEX is going to be a must. So yeah, full globe. I've already filled up half a passport already.
That's a serious task to do. We just crossed an hour. I don't know if there's more questions. So you can go ahead and put them in the chat.
Feel free. Button if you're watching. I only sleep 4 hours a day, man. Don't worry.
I don't know how you do it.
Well, you know, like I said to you, I've been doing living on 4 hours for years, right? My dad was the same, funny enough. He used to sleep 4 hours. So I just think that it's probably something to do with the fact that, you know, for most of my life, I've worked on computers in one form or another. So, you know, a developer's lifestyle is not for everyone. That's a lot of hours in front of a computer screen.
Right.
It's a lot of hours in front of a computer screen. And there's a few people I know in the chat that you know, they'll understand that. They'll definitely understand that. See, exactly. Sadie understands it. You know, generally, you know, there's a couple of cans of Red Bull in the fridge at all times,
ready to go.
You know, I drink way too much tea as well. That's another byproduct of you know. I mean, look, I've even upgraded the cup now, so you know, this is actually like proper Yeti cup.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah,
it's nice. So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if you guys have got any more questions, feel free to ask them.
I had just a couple more.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, you were talking about a relationship with Keystone for hardware wallets. Is that I'm assuming that's complete? I haven't actually checked that.
We have some other key. We have some actually. I can probably say this because this isn't even in the slideshow for the presentation, so I won't get in trouble for this.
Okay, all right.
But I signed off on 2 new wallet integrations. So that's with software-based wallets, and we've got 3 hardware wallet integrations currently in the process of being dealt with now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm just hoping Tangem might be one of those.
Tangem is the shall we say the frustrating one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow. Right. Really?
Yeah. I assumed that they wouldn't be. However, they announced that they were going to do DYNEX. Then they pushed us back by 6 months, and now they just dropped us off the list with very little in the way of actual explanation.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I have no problem with the Tangem team. I actually think they're very good at what they do, right?
Yeah. I thought so
it's just that there's obviously a reason for why that there is a problem.
Okay.
I mean, DYNEX supports offline signatures, so technically any hardware vendor can integrate DYNEX offline signatures. That's like very basic crypto wallet technology, offline signatures. They've been around since 2014, 2015 ish. So it's not new technology, but obviously it's dependent on their framework that they're working on. So I've got a feeling that Tangem probably need to do a firmware upgrade.
Got it. Okay.
And therefore they're either waiting for their next big firmware upgrade to then support it, or there is the option of the wrapped token. And that's going to be a big announcement on the 14th. Everyone's been waiting for it.
Yeah.
It's been a long time working on it. It's been 3 months since we announced it. But it was to do with the fact that audits had to be done. Okay. We didn't want to take the risk. Bridges scare the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Right? Bridges scare the hell out of me. Because how many bridges have we heard get hacked in just this year
all
alone?
The time.
right? All the time, right? So we didn't just contract out my auditing firm to do an internal audit, because there's an agreement in place with Yeti Audits to do all DYNEX internal testing and auditing. We actually contracted a third-party audit firm considered one of the best in the industry, which is why it took so long, because they picked it apart, quite literally picked it apart.
Okay, all right.
And there was a couple of things that could be a problem down the road, not necessarily from a breach standpoint, just stuff that could potentially cause some trouble with the one-to-one lock-in. When you're doing the transfer over the bridge, could stall out the mechanism. So, you know, we went backwards and forwards to iron out any issues and worries that they had on that. And yeah, their audit is now come back as clear, happy with that. And now I guess the 14th, I will say it, that on the 14th, people will get the final date of the release for the wrap token.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, you can't be careful.
Technically, Tangent could then support DYNEX straight out of the box, because they could just take the wrap token instead.
Got it. Okay.
So there's going to be no details on what network you're going to be using until the 14th.
No, I could tell you which network.
No. What if I don't want you to get in trouble?
Already technically been spoken about publicly. So to start with, the very first network will be Ethereum.
That seems to be the.
However, the benefit of doing that is that technically Base network could be a very easy switch over, because Base's bridging mechanism that we use on the bridging mechanism that we use on ETH can be taken straight over to Base. So in theory, Base would be a good option. Polygon would be another good option. That's again straight direct compatible with Ethereum. And then there would probably be, given that Octaspace is a partner and they're also ETH hash based, it would be a fairly straightforward switch over process for Octa as well.
Great.
The only difference with Octa is obviously the wrapped token. I don't know if they're quite set up for layer 2 yet on Octa. Got to do some checks on that to see if it's possible. But I would love to have a bridge to Octa so that we can do DYNEX to Octa, Octa to DYNEX, because there's already really close partnership there. We talk on a regular basis. We do AMAs together. We recently did just an AMA, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Just before I flew out to Italy, actually. We were doing an AMA with us, Octa, and Cubic, which was an interesting sit-down chat. So, did FF have to jump off quickly?
Yeah, he had to jump off.
Yeah, but it looks like he looks like he's popping back in for a second. I don't think he meant to jump off that abruptly there. He does have to go soon.
Yeah.
Did you want to? I know you got to go, FF. Did you want to jump in with any question or anything before you go?
No, not really, but I didn't mean to go like that.
Yeah, I know.
I do want to end with this. I was trying to help out Yeti with some exchanges that I'll leave unnamed. I was able to get some internal contacts with a pretty large exchange, but it didn't work out. And what I want to say is, if there's anybody who works on that side, the exchange side of crypto, watching this right now, please give a chance to these smaller cryptos, these smaller projects, because like looking into like something like Casper, right? They were so big in like my Casper contacts. They were like, oh, let's get Casper onboarded, all this, like give us all your contacts for Casper, because I was talking to Casper people, blah, blah, blah. I know this is a DYNEX conversation. But when I was in Miami, and this certain exchange was so hyped on them, but Casper didn't care about them. Whereas a DYNEX was like
almost the other way.
Yeah, gung ho, like let's work together, let's figure something out. And I feel like if you are in an exchange and you are watching this right now, please open your mind a little bit, because some of those higher cap coins, those people don't really give a crap about you.
It's very true.
And that's just from my own experience working with Yeti with this. And I just wanted to
some of the frustrations, right?
Yeah, it was very, very annoying. And these are people like that I know. That's how I was able to get these contacts. So it kind of like upset me too, because I go out there and throw out my, 2 cents and my reputation is kind of effed in a way too, because I'm like, okay, Yeti, I can do this for you. I know these people, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, but
right?
you know what I said to you when we spoke about it in Miami, right? I didn't put any pressure on you at all, right? That wasn't the idea. It was just like, can you have a nudge of your contacts, see if there's any doors that can be opened? You know, I'd love to have a sit down conversation, because like we've had conversations with a few different exchanges, and with some of them, it's not so much they're not wanting to list DYNEX, it's just they don't quite understand DYNEX. So I get into a meeting with them and an hour goes by, and then suddenly it's a very different conversation. Sometimes it's just about getting that foot in the door and having a talk.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to end on. Tried, but I love DYNEX. I have not sold not one DYNEX that I have mine. Absolutely. I know I got rid of a lot of my GPUs, but I have a good stack of DYNEX. So I just want to end with that too. So
yep, I'm a holder as well. All right, buddy.
Nice.
Take care, buddy.
Later. See you soon. Now I'll leave.
Now.
Some good questions just been posted up.
Well, I try to hold up a couple. I don't know if you want to
answer.
The
most surprising thing for this year, that's got to be going to Italy to go and work with some European Le Mans cars. I mean, I'm a big petrol head at heart. Like, I love my racing. I've also my private job back here in the UK. I do have some business connections with Formula One. We do Aston Martin's car reveal every year for them. So for me, I've always been into my cars. So when they offered me the chance to go out to Italy, to Mugello, like I was packing the bags before they finished asking. So yeah, they didn't have to ask me twice. They're like, we're sending you to Mugello. I was like, hang on a minute, Mugello, the racetrack? They're like, yep, I'm packing.
Okay.
Yep. It was brilliant. It was such an experience, right? Like if ever anyone's got a chance to go to a proper race track to watch a race event, I'd highly recommend it, because it's such an amazing day out,
different in person, right?
Days out. It's an experience, right? It's nobody can quite prepare you for how loud those cars are when they scream past you. They're so loud. I came back, I couldn't hear a thing for like 2 days. It's great, and I still loved every minute of it. So
it's got to be amazing in person. It's got to be.
Oh yeah,
got to be
so loud. So loud.
I was going to ask about the military, but we'll let you jump in right here. Maybe you can't talk about it, and that's
okay. No. I can actually answer this.
Okay.
So our ultimate position has been not to be political. We certainly don't want to allow certain countries to utilize DYNEX because of how they have been with certain technologies. So, for example, countries that might want to use CFD, right? So what could CFD be used for, right? Other than just cars and wind tunnel effects for planes, cars and buildings. Well, technically, you can use CFD to map out a gun, right? Bullet trajectories, how much the blowback would be, all that kind of thing. Inertia coming out the gun, kickback, all of that. But it could also be used for an ICBM.
Yep.
That's scary, right? To develop an ICBM. So there is things that we have to be careful with. However, we did talk to some contacts who are from, this is going to get me in trouble, but So we spoke to some contacts at DARPA, right? Now, problem is DARPA is military and government funded, right? Both sides of the equation. They're both military and government funded. However, DARPA also do some crazy stuff that's not anything to do with military, right? They were the first guys to really crack the internet in general, right? The ARPANET. Right. It came from DARPA. The prelude to actually the internet itself. So we understand that there are going to be exemptions to those rules around us not wanting to get involved with governments or militaries. But there's still going to be, regardless of who they are, they'll still be subject to the ethics integrity check, regardless. No company or military or any government of any kind will have the ability to bypass our ethics committee. No one. It's hard coded into the system. It can't be bypassed.
I was just going to ask, how are you going to be able to
it's hard coded.
Okay.
So nobody gets past it. Not me, not the big boss man. Even our co-founders are subject to ethical integrity checks. All staff are. Anyone who runs on the network is effectively subject to that check. So,
well, I got to say, I like hearing that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's important to us that we have some ethical integrity around this, right? Like, otherwise, it means that going forward, things like decentralized compute will have issues if people don't have the integrity. They'll clamp down on it really hard, and that'll be game over for everyone. The benefit for us is that we'll be proving that we can get compliant. It's just that we have to get creative with some of the wording, right? Because distributed network is kind of okay to use. Blockchain is not, from the business like documentation, right? So we've found that there are certain words we have to use other than blockchain and crypto.
Can I ask, is that because of regulatory constraints or lack thereof?
Correct. So certain countries in Europe, if we put in the word blockchain, they wouldn't even be able to touch us as a company.
Wow.
Put distributed network though, and suddenly it all goes away.
It's fine. Yeah, it's the same thing, but
same thing. Same thing,
bit.
Just different words. So yeah, it's not ideal. So yeah, but another one that I've reached out to recently that we're waiting to hear back from is a couple of space companies.
Nice.
So one is a small sat rocket company. I won't say the country they're based out of, otherwise that's going to pinpoint them down very quickly, because they are one of the very few in that country, if not the only one in that country, actually, I think, come to think of it now. So yeah, I can't really say which country. And the other one is we're leveraging one of our business associates contacts to try and get us a conversation with NASA about some possible work with JPL, because obviously JPL use quantum now. I don't know if you know this. Jet Propulsion Laboratory actually use quantum now for insertion trajectories for when you're coming back from orbit. That's all done on a quantum machine.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Yeah. Wow. They do all those calculations on a quantum machine right now. JPL does it. So I would love to have a conversation with those guys, because, you know, NASA has a very tight budget. If you look at how much they had as a budget when they went to the moon, say, right in the 60s, their budget was huge.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at their budget now, it's less than 1% of what they used to have.
Oh, geez, that little. Okay.
It's really small now. Wow. Really small.
Okay.
And it gets smaller every year, right? Yeah. So the biggest potential for us right now is if we walk in there and go, you can have all this same technology you've been running for years, but at a fraction of the price. Suddenly, we might be able to get that conversation with them, right? Because if they're tight on budgetary constraints, that's the right time to be approaching them.
Right.
So that's something that's really sort of close to the heart, because I'm a big space enthusiast at heart, right? I want to see us get out there and start exploring space. I mean, if we didn't stop when we got to the moon in the 60s, we probably would have already been at Mars by now, to be fair. Don't forget, we just stopped space travel for 50 years.
For a very long time, yeah.
For 50 years. Like, that comes with consequences.
Changed it, yeah.
You know, so... But I actually did do some simulation stuff, right? I was lucky enough to get hold of some test data of SpaceX's Starship launch for Flight 4. Actually, they're soon to be doing Flight 5. But we were able to do the simulation, and it matches pretty darn close to what actually happened.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
So that's super interesting as well. Like I'll have to show you one day the sim. It's really fascinating, like how close it is to, like, we put the video and our sim side by side.
Okay, all right, side by side.
It was a really interesting test because it was really close. I think there was like maybe 1.2 second difference between what ours was showing and what was live. So that's pretty close, and I reckon I could probably get that closer just with a few more iterations and more data. So hopefully when Flight 5 data comes out, because SpaceX is really cool about it, they actually open source their flight data.
Oh, do they? I didn't know that. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right. SpaceX just also open sourced all their patents as well, by the way.
I heard about that. They're just
crazy,
right?
Like crazy, right? Like I could go and take a space like Tesla big home storage battery now and go and manufacture it myself. Like, that's great. Really is great. Like it goes to show that open source is really good for that kind of scenario.
When he said that, I wasn't actually sure if he was going to open source everything.
No, they did it. They did it. It's crazy. Like, big respect to a company to do that, right? Because patents are really the protecting factor of a business, right? That's your bread and butter. That's what's earning you the money going forward. Yeah. So to open source those and say, no, we want the world to use it. That's big. That's big. I mean, it could only come from, probably one of the, wealthiest men on the planet, because you're going to be eating a lot of your profit margin at that point. But I just think if he truly is about what he's trying to do, which is, push the boundaries of what human capabilities are and technology, open sourcing is probably the fastest way to do it, because you're effectively crowdsourcing your development.
Yep, absolutely. Accelerate it.
So, we've found with, SpaceX uses iterative design methodology, right? We do the same at DYNEX. We use iterative designs. Why, 3 months ago when we were rolling out new updates, right? You saw update after update, literally every couple of hours, there was an update coming out. It's since slowed down a bit because we're now working on the LLM. But again, once the LLM launches, there's going to be update after update after update, because we're going to be, iterative design working, and we're going to be taking the feedback from our clients and from our community, and then starting to implement that, right? We don't want to hang around with it. We want to get that implemented in quickly, so we can get that next iterative design working, smoothed out, find where the problems with it still are, and then the next iteration comes along. So I've always preferred that kind of methodology, right? I don't like this old way of thinking where you've got to do so much quality checks before you even do some running. And then by the time you've done that, you're 3 months down the line, and you could have already been 5 iterations on from that one spot you're already at. It doesn't really work. And then obviously throw into the fact that we've got a crypto side to the equation, and people don't want to, wait more than 3 days for something to happen. It puts a lot of pressure on our shoulders, right? But it's one of the reasons why we've got some of the best minds in the industry, I would say, for our devs for that side. Ivan and his developer team, right? And on the 14th, I've actually asked him to be at the AMA. He's going to be there with some of his dev team. I've asked him to be there because I think that he should be the one to announce the development changes, right? Because that's his team, that's his department, and he deserves all the credit where credit is due, right? Like the whole team does at that point, because they've pulled out all the stops to make sure that all these economic changes and things that we're implementing are going to be ready almost on the day we announce it. So
that's a bit of pressure there, right, to get everything lined
yeah, there's nothing like putting pressure on. That's why I'm losing my hairline, and going great.
Yeah.
12 months ago I had half decent hairline.
Yeah, just shaving away. Do you got any more questions there, CCM, on your side?
Well, only one related to, you were talking about all the stress with regard to regulations and all this stuff. Where do you see yourself falling as this expands, on the business side of everything, or on the play with the quantum computer side of everything?
That's a very good question. I'm kind of blessed and cursed at the same time, right? Because I'm the unfortunate one who gets to deal with the compliance documents, right? As the head of the ecosystem, I have to deal with all the compliance documents. That's the unfortunate part of my job, right? That's the business aspect of it. But getting to play with quantum PCs every day of the week is awesome. Quite honestly, for me, I'm a big tech nerd, right? Big tech nerd. So to get to play around with that kind of technology in an environment that is infinitely scalable is so new that it's taken a lot of time to explain that to people, right? DYNEX has infinite scalability, whereas a physical quantum just doesn't. Because once you build it, you can't scale it anymore. It's locked.
Mm-hmm.
You got to basically scrap it and build a new one.
Another one.
We don't have to do that. We just add more GPUs.
Yeah, a very interesting way to build it out.
Or maybe something else.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That sounds like a future interview.
Yeah.
That's definitely a 14th job. That's definitely excellent. I'm gonna be quiet now before I end up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can imagine that the 14th is a big one for us, right? We're really gonna push what is a business with a blockchain and a crypto business, to the point where realistically we're just a business with a service attached to it. We don't want it to be looked at as, it's a distributed network or it's a blockchain or anything like that. We're effectively quantum as a service at that point.
Quantum as a service. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. I like hearing that, quantum as a service.
So we have big news coming up on Monday. That's Monday, right? October 14th. That's Thanksgiving in Canada.
See, Sherm knows, because Sherm staff, so he knows what's coming on the 14th. He knows how much I have already been stressed out about this. This is big, because I'm sure I'm not going to please everyone, right?
Yeah.
Not going to please everyone. And I suspect I'm going to be dealing with some rather upset people, I'm sure, that don't quite see the big picture. But that's what the AMA is there for, right? So that we can get it all off our chest, we can have a conversation, and we'll explain it in a way that makes it easy for everyone.
Sure. I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait.
Feel free to drop by.
Is that going to be broadcasted on YouTube? Is that where you're...
We're going to try doing a complete simulcast, right? So that's Discord, Telegram, and YouTube all at the same time.
Discord, Telegram, and this.
So it's going to be an interesting one.
Would the main place be your Discord? Is that where we want people?
Yeah, that's where all of it will be hosted from.
Okay.
But we'll restream it to YouTube. I might try and get it on X if it'll stay stable enough for long enough. Because X's service sometimes can be a little hit and miss. I find that in a lot of spaces that I'm in. Sometimes you just spend 10 minutes trying to get in the room. So if we can do X, we'll do X as well. But we're going to basically position a moderator running the stream on each different method, with the idea of funneling those questions from that platform. So if, say, Sherm was on doing our YouTube and restreaming our YouTube, then he would take the questions off the YouTube and funnel them to us. or we've got, you know, like somebody like Rabarul on our Telegram. They're going to funnel all the questions from Telegram. So, and we're going to try and do it on all of our Telegrams, by the way. That's going to be really tricky as well, because we've got like 6 of them.
Wow. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a task, but we feel that the only way to really do this justice is try and get it on everything we have access to.
Absolutely. Reach as many people as you can.
Yeah,
that's great.
Exactly.
Fantastic stuff. October 14th. That's coming up real soon.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Very soon now.
Yeah.
I know, right? It's like
a few days. Yeah.
5 days away now. Oh. Well, 6 days for you guys. You're on the other side of the pond. So I'm already next day.
No, okay. Oh, it's got to be late for you. Anyways, we should wrap this up. It's already been an hour and a half. I didn't realize.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, appreciate you taking that time to do that.
No, I love coming on here. Like I said last time, like I had such good fun. Like when could we do part 2? So I think when I showed you guys the pictures of me in Italy, I think that was when it was like, let's do a part 2.
We got hyped up on that.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll do a follow-up again. Maybe if we can squeeze one more in before the end of the year.
Yeah, of course. Like, you let me know when and we'll book it in. That's no problem. I really enjoy having these conversations, right? I really do. I enjoy doing all these interviews and sort of AMA kind of scenarios, because all it fundamentally is doing is allowing people to get more understanding of what we're doing, right?
Exactly.
More information, more understanding. More understanding leads to, you know, better choices when you're either investing as buying the coin or whether you're going to go and mine it, right? Having more information gives you that ability to have clarity with what you're choosing to do.
Huge educational experience for me as well. Yeah, like I really enjoy it. And I appreciate having you on. Thank you very much for joining us.
No, absolutely. Anytime at all.
You want to wrap us up then, Jar?
Thank you for joining us on the Matrix Money podcast. We'll see you next Tuesday. Take care, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.